Homemade frozen treats from the neighborhood. Entrepreneur. Summer in black neighborhoods during the 1970s meant lining up at the candy lady's house for frozen treats she made in her kitchen and sold from her porch. These homemade delights went by different names depending on your city, but the concept remained universal. Sweetened drink mix poured into small cups and frozen solid overnight. Kids showed up with their quarters ready, asking for flavors by color rather than name because everyone understood that red meant cherry, purple meant grape, and orange meant exactly what you'd expect. Some candy ladies elevated the experience by adding pieces of fruit or small candies frozen into the mixture, creating surprise treasures as you ate your way to the bottom. The ritual of pushing the frozen block up from the bottom of the cup as it melted, catching the sweet liquid as it dripped down your fingers, defined countless summer afternoons. These treats cost less than anything from the ice cream truck, but tasted better because they came with the personal touch of someone in your community who knew your name. For black kids in the 1970s, these frozen cups represented neighborhood economics and the entrepreneurial spirit of women who turned their freezers into small businesses that brought joy to every child on the block. 3. Individual candies sold one by one, behind glass. The corner store experience in black neighborhoods during the 1970s centered on the glass counter where individual candies were displayed in jars and boxes, available for purchase one piece at a time. Kids would press their faces against the glass, pointing at their selections while counting out pennies and nickels with careful deliberation. Store owners knew every child by name and patiently waited while decisions were made and changed and made again. The variety seemed endless. Caramel candies, hard fruit candies, sour balls, jawbreakers, and sweet sticks that cost 2 for a penny. Making your small change stretch as far as possible required strategy and mathematical skills that school couldn't teach. Some candies were special treats, while others were reliable favorites you could count on every time. The store owner would drop your selections into a small paper bag, and the weight of that bag in your hand felt significant even if it only held a few pieces. This shopping experience taught patience, decision-making, and the value of money in ways that modern bulk candy buying never could. For black kids in the 1970s, the penny candy counter represented independence, choice, and the sweet reward of being trusted with a few coins and the freedom to spend them as you wished. 4. Crackling candy crystals that exploded on your tongue. When certain popping candies hit the market in the mid-1970s, black kids experienced something their parents had never known. Candy that actively fizzed and crackled inside their mouths like tiny fireworks. The sensation was so unusual that some children were initially afraid to try them, uncertain whether something that active could possibly be safe. The pouches came in fruit flavors, and the experience of pouring the crystals onto your tongue and feeling them pop and snap was unlike anything else available at the corner store. Then came the urban legend that would define an entire generation's relationship with these candies. Rumors spread through playgrounds that someone had mixed them with soda and suffered catastrophic results. Parents worried, the company denied the claims, but the legend persisted, adding an element of danger to what was actually a harmless treat. For black kids in the 1970s, these popping candies represented both scientific wonder and playground mythology, proving that sometimes the story around a snack became as important as the snack itself. 5. Long-lasting caramel on a stick. Dense caramel lollipops mounted on sticks were designed to last, and black kids in the 1970s perfected the art of making a single one last for hours. These treats were firm and required patience, not the quick gratification of chocolate or gum. Some kids tried to bite through and risked dental damage, while others learned the slower method of letting the caramel gradually dissolve. The smaller bite-sized version came in boxes perfect for sharing at movies or during long afternoons. Both versions were affordable enough that kids could buy them with pocket change, and their longevity meant you got serious value for your money. Walking around the neighborhood with one of these caramel sticks in your mouth became a visible sign that you had a little spending money and knew how to make it last. For black kids in the 1970s, these caramel treats represented not just candy, but the wisdom of stretching pleasure as long as possible, making every penny count in an era when treats weren't taken for granted. 6. Sour lemon candies and candy-coated peanuts. Small round candies with intensely sour lemon exteriors that gave way to sweet centers made black kids' faces scrunch up in the 1970s before the sweetness arrived as a reward. They came in small boxes that rattled satisfyingly when shaken, and kids would pour them directly from box to mouth. Alongside these sour treats, candy-coated peanuts that looked like tiny beans offered a different experience. Sweet coating, crunchy center, and a satisfying texture that made them perfect for slow snacking. Both treats were inexpensive enough to buy with loose change found in couch cushions or earned from small chores. They were small enough to hide in pockets and sneak into places where candy technically wasn't allowed. These simple candies appeared at every family gathering, church picnic, and neighborhood celebration, reliable favorites that nobody complained about receiving. For black kids in the 1970s, these treats represented the uncomplicated pleasure of candy that delivered exactly what it promised. Sour, or crunchy, or sweet. Nothing fancy, just reliable satisfaction every single time. 7. Pickles transformed by sweet powder and sugar. In southern black communities during the 1970s, an innovation emerged that seemed impossible but worked perfectly. Dill pickles soaked in sweetened fruit drink powder until they transformed into something entirely new. The result was a bright red or purple pickle that combined sweet, sour, salty, and tangy in ways that shouldn't have worked, but absolutely did. These treats were sold at corner stores, gas stations, and by neighborhood entrepreneurs who made them at home and sold them for small profit. The neon colors looked almost artificial, and the flavor combination shocked first-timers who couldn't believe what they were tasting. Cherry and tropical punch were the most popular transformations, turning ordinary green pickles into treats that defied all expectations. For black kids in the 1970s, these transformed pickles represented Southern innovation and the willingness to experiment with flavors until you created something uniquely delicious. The tradition continues in some areas today, but the original culture of buying them from someone in your neighborhood who made them with love and secret techniques has mostly faded into history. 8. Braided caramel bar that seemed impossibly long. When a certain candy company introduced a bar made of braided caramel covered in chocolate in the early 1970s, black kids were amazed by its length. The wrapper even included a ruler so you could verify the impressive size for yourself. The braided design meant the caramel stretched and pulled as you bit into it, making each section last longer than regular candy bars. For families where treats weren't always affordable, this bar represented serious value because it seemed endless. Kids learned to break off sections and share them with friends, turning one purchase into an afternoon of communal enjoyment. The bar required patience to eat properly, and that patience was rewarded with lasting flavor and satisfaction. When it was eventually discontinued in the early 1980s, fans mourned the loss of a candy that had made them feel like they were getting more than their money's worth. For black kids in the 1970s, this elongated bar represented not just candy, but the economic wisdom of choosing treats that lasted, that could be shared, and that made even limited resources feel abundant. 9. Pure flavored sugar in paper tubes. Paper straws filled with intensely flavored powder offered black kids in the 1970s the closest experience to eating pure sugar they could get. These treats came in every color imaginable and cost just pennies, with larger versions available for those willing to spend a bit more. The technique for eating them required precision, tearing the top carefully, tilting your head back, and pouring the powder into your mouth without spilling. The powder was essentially drink mix without water, delivering concentrated sweetness and artificial fruit flavor. Teachers tried to ban them from schools because kids left colored powder residue on desks and showed telltale stained lips. The empty wrappers littered playgrounds throughout black neighborhoods, evidence of a generation that loved its sweets without apology. These sugar tubes weren't sophisticated or nutritious, but they delivered exactly what they promised: pure sugary joy at a price every kid could afford. For black kids in the 1970s, these paper tubes represented democratic pleasure, treats so inexpensive that even the smallest amount of pocket money could secure the sweet rush they provided. 10. Ice cream truck bars with distinctive coatings. The bells of ice cream trucks in the 1970s sent black kids sprinting through their neighborhoods with whatever coins they could gather. The trucks offered bars that became legendary for their unique textures and flavors. Chocolate-covered eclairs, strawberry bars rolled in pink crumbs, and vanilla covered in crunchy toasted nuts. Each variety had devoted fans who would argue passionately about what would be practical. Sometimes candy was just fun, and that was reason enough to keep buying it. 12. Crunchy Orange Peanut Butter Sticks. Bright orange candy sticks made from peanut butter and coconut looked almost alien with their neon color and bumpy surface. But one bite revealed their delicious secret. The texture was uniquely crunchy, crumbling slightly as you bit down and releasing intense peanut butter flavor. These sticks were affordable and genuinely filling, making them perfect for kids who needed snacks that provided actual substance rather than just sugar. They came individually wrapped or in shareable bags that appeared at family reunions and church picnics throughout Black communities. Some people compared them to other peanut butter candies, but loyal fans knew these orange sticks had their own distinct identity that couldn't be replicated. The combination of peanut butter and coconut created something greater than either ingredient alone. For Black kids in the 1970s, these crunchy sticks represented the joy of discovering unusual flavors and textures that didn't look like much but delivered serious satisfaction with every bite. 13. Bubble gum with comic strip wrappers. Pink gum wrapped in waxy paper came with tiny comic strips that kids collected and traded like currency. The gum itself started out hard, requiring serious jaw work before it softened enough for bubble blowing. The flavor was intense initially, but faded quickly, leaving you with a tasteless wad that you kept chewing anyway because giving up felt like defeat. The comics featured recurring characters and jokes that kids memorized and repeated to friends. Some wrappers were more valuable than others, and serious collectors saved their favorites in shoe boxes. The company ran contests where you could mail in wrappers for prizes, adding extra excitement beyond just the gum. Bubble-blowing competitions were common on playgrounds, with kids competing to see who could create the biggest bubble before it popped across their face. For Black kids in the 1970s, this comic strip gum represented multiple pleasures in one package. Something to chew, something to read, something to collect, and something to share in competitions that tested skill and determination. 14. Pretend tobacco. Products made of sugar. Sugar sticks packaged to look exactly like real cigarette brands were treats that Black kids in the 1970s enjoyed without understanding the implications. The packages featured flip-top boxes and foil wrapping that mimicked adult tobacco products perfectly. Kids would pull them out, hold them between fingers, and pretend to blow smoke by exhaling sharply to create tiny puffs of powdered sugar. Some versions were chocolate wrapped in edible paper, making them more realistic and more delicious. The candy itself was unremarkable, just sweetened chalk or chocolate, but the role-playing made it exciting. Parents allowed their children to play with these without concern, because it was simply what kids did during that era. Looking back decades later, marketing cigarette-shaped candy to children seems questionable, and these products eventually faced restrictions. But for Black kids growing up in the 1970s, these sugar sticks were just another fun treat from the corner store, innocent in their minds, if not in their design. 15. Space-themed Chewy food sticks. Chewy snack sticks marketed during the space exploration craze made Black kids in the 1970s feel connected to astronauts and moon landings. These dense, cake-like sticks came in chocolate, peanut butter, and caramel flavors, each one substantial enough to actually satisfy hunger rather than just providing sugar. The packaging featured futuristic designs and claims that similar products had traveled to space, which made every bite feel significant. For a generation watching history unfold through space program achievements, these sticks represented tangible connection to something larger than everyday neighborhood life. Kids brought them to school and showed them off, pretending they were preparing for their own missions to the stars. The texture was unique, somewhere between candy and actual food, making them more satisfying than typical sweets. When these space-themed sticks were eventually discontinued, a piece of that optimistic space-age wonder disappeared with them. For Black kids in the 1970s, these treats represented dreams of the future and the belief that space exploration belonged to everyone, including children from neighborhoods that rarely saw rockets except on television. 16. Intensely flavored. Hard candies that lasted forever. Hard candies with flavors so intense they almost hurt were favorites for Black kids in the 1970s who needed their treats to last through long afternoons. The candies were designed to be sucked slowly, delivering flavor for extended periods if you had the patience not to bite down. Watermelon, green apple, cherry, and grape competed for favorite status, with kids developing fierce loyalty to specific flavors. The distinctive wrapper crinkle announced to everyone nearby that someone had something good. Trading different flavors became an informal economy on playgrounds, with certain flavors commanding higher value in negotiations. These hard candies were perfect for situations where you needed to be quiet but wanted something sweet. Church services, long car rides, and boring classes where crunching would get you caught. The candies stained mouths so thoroughly that parents could identify what flavor you'd eaten just by looking at your tongue. For black kids in the 1970s, these lasting candies represented value, patience, and the ability to make pleasure extend far beyond the moment of purchase. 17. Striped gum with temporary tattoo. Capability. Striped sticks of gum came in zebra-decorated packages and promised exotic fruit flavors that delivered incredible initial taste before vanishing almost immediately. Each piece featured stripes that could transfer to your tongue if you pressed the gum against it before chewing, creating temporary tattoos that kids showed off to friends. The first burst of flavor was spectacular, a rainbow of fruity sweetness that exploded in your mouth and made you believe this was the best gum ever created. Then, within 30 seconds, the flavor disappeared completely, leaving you with bland, tasteless gum that nobody wanted to keep chewing. Kids went through multiple pieces trying to recapture that initial moment, making packs disappear faster than any other gum on the market. The zebra mascot on the packaging became iconic, recognizable to every child who ever experienced the brief joy and quick disappointment this gum delivered. For black kids in the 1970s, this striped gum taught an early lesson about the difference between marketing promises and actual delivery, though that didn't stop anyone from buying it again next week. 18. Stretchy Taffy, with jokes on every wrapper. Rectangular pieces of soft taffy came wrapped with printed jokes that made eating candy into an entertainment experience. The taffy itself sat somewhere between other chewy candies in texture, soft enough to bite, but requiring work to get through. Banana, strawberry, grape, and cherry flavors competed for attention, with banana developing an especially devoted following. Every wrapper featured a joke ranging from genuinely funny to pun-based groaners that made you roll your eyes while smiling anyway. Kids saved the best jokes to tell their friends, turning candy consumption into comedy exchanges. The taffy was affordable enough to buy several pieces at once, and each piece lasted long enough to make the purchase feel worthwhile. The combination of sweet treat and written entertainment elevated this product beyond simple candy. For black kids in the 1970s, this joke-wrapped taffy represented value beyond just sugar and flavor, proving that candy companies could provide multiple forms of pleasure in a single product if they were willing to be creative. 19. Layer Lollipops with bubblegum centers. Lollipops featuring hard candy shells surrounding bubblegum cores gave black kids in the 1970s two distinct treats in one purchase. The challenge was working through the outer candy layer to reach the gum hidden inside, creating anticipation that made every lick feel purposeful. Cherry, grape, watermelon, and sour apple were among the favorite flavors, each one rewarding patience with that moment when the candy finally gave way to reveal the gum. Some kids tried to bite through immediately and ruined the whole experience, while patient ones savored the journey through each layer. The gum inside wasn't exceptional quality and lost flavor quickly, but reaching it after all that work made it taste better than it probably was. These 2-layer lollipops were perfect for long walks home from school or lazy summer afternoons when time moved slowly and you had nothing to do but enjoy your candy. For black kids in the 1970s, these treats taught delayed gratification and the understanding that sometimes the journey toward a reward mattered as much as the reward itself. 20. Simple, frozen sandwiches that melted too fast. Vanilla ice cream pressed between 2 soft chocolate wafer cookies represented summer simplicity for black kids in the 1970s. These frozen treats cost less than fancier options and delivered straightforward pleasure without complications. The chocolate cookie stuck to the paper wrapper, requiring careful licking to recover every bit of flavor. Eating quickly was essential because the ice cream melted rapidly in summer heat, running down hands and dripping onto hot sidewalks. Kids developed efficient eating techniques, taking measured bites and using tongues to catch drips before they escaped. The ice cream truck sold these alongside more elaborate options, but the simple sandwich remained popular because it was reliable, affordable, and delicious. No bells and whistles, no unusual flavors, just chocolate and vanilla in perfect harmony. For black kids in the 1970s, these frozen sandwiches represented dependable pleasure, the kind of treat you could count on to deliver satisfaction every single time without surprises or disappointments. 21st Athlete Endorsed Candy Bar. When a famous baseball player got his own candy bar in the mid-1970s, black kids felt connected to athletic greatness through chocolate, caramel, and peanuts. The bar featured a combination similar to other popular options, but carried the added appeal of being named after a real-life hero who was dominating his sport. When this athlete achieved spectacular success during championship games, fans celebrated by throwing his namesake candy bars, creating a moment that became sports legend. For black kids who idolized this player and other black athletes, eating his candy bar felt like a small connection to excellence and achievement. The marketing emphasized his charisma and star power, making the candy about more than just taste. When the bar was eventually discontinued, it left a hole that no other candy could fill, because no other treat carried that same combination of flavor and hero worship. For black kids in the 1970s, this athlete's candy bar represented the intersection of sports, celebrity, and the sweet pleasure of supporting your heroes in the most literal way possible. 22. Glazed popcorn in funny boxes. Sweet glazed popcorn came in distinctive, colorful boxes covered with humorous sayings that kids read and compared with their friends. The popcorn itself was coated in a buttery glaze that made it crispy and addictive, different from regular caramel corn. The boxes often included small collectible items that turned snack time into treasure hunting. Kids saved their boxes to read the funny messages printed on them, turning packaging into entertainment beyond just the food inside. This glazed popcorn was often reserved for special occasions, which made it feel more valuable than everyday snacks. The texture was light and crunchy, melting on your tongue while delivering bursts of sweetness. When this product disappeared from stores decades later, a piece of 1970s snack culture went with it. For black kids during that era, this glazed popcorn in funny boxes represented the understanding that food could be entertainment, that packaging mattered, and that sometimes the whole experience was greater than any individual component. These 22 snacks tell the story of childhood in black communities during the 1970s through sugar, flavoring, and the small joys that cost pennies but created lasting memories. They weren't gourmet treats or health-conscious options. They were affordable pleasures that turned ordinary days into sweet experiences, that taught kids to count change and make choices, and that created shared culture through flavors everyone recognized. The corner stores, candy ladies, and ice cream trucks that sold these treats were more than just vendors. They were community institutions where kids learned independence and social skills. Today, many of these snacks have vanished completely. Some were discontinued by companies chasing different markets. Others disappeared when the small businesses that sold them closed their doors forever. But for those who remember, these treats represent more than just nostalgia. They represent a time when neighborhood meant something, when a quarter could buy happiness, and when the sweetest treats were the ones you shared with friends under streetlights on summer nights. Which of these vanished snacks do you remember best? Drop a comment and tell us which flavor still makes your mouth water decades later.